I recently did a reaction to Linda Ronstadt singing Desperado, which was absolutely beautiful, and looked into her diverse background in singing. Yep, she sings everything from opera to Mexican music to pop and folk. But this one was a patron vote winner, and I haven't heard the song before, although I have, of course, done my research.
Love will abide, take things in stride. Sounds like good advice, but there's no one at my side, and time washes clean love's wounds unseen. That's what someone told me, but I don't know what it means, 'cause I've done everything I know.
What beautiful lyrics in this! This song was not written by Linda herself, it was actually written by a man called Gary White and given to Linda in the 1970s, and she loved the song. I love those lyrics. Love will abide, take things in stride, and you're lulled into this false sense of security, like she's going to be like, oh, of course. And then she breaks into this big open sound with cry. Ah! In fact, actually it's more sob. There's a slight difference. Cry tends to be paired with a higher larynx and sob with a lower larynx. So is more sob, cry, that kind of tighter sound. And if you want to know if you have a high larynx or a lower larynx, you can actually feel it. So if you touch your chin, draw your finger all the way down, you'll find a little lump, your Adam's apple if you're a man, but women also have that too. It's just a little lump, it's just less defined. And if you do your sound, you might feel it go down, you might feel it go up. And it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing if it goes up or down, it just happens for different sounds. Normally what we're looking for as a baseline is a kind of neutral position, and for it to kind of adapt as we move to the more extreme areas of our voice, but not so much that it completely tenses up everything in your neck. So let's break down some of these beautiful moments here.
Love will abide, take things in stride.
Lulled into this false sense of security. Love will abide. Short, light, breathy. I love how she's kind of breaking it up. Love will abide. With that beautiful vibrato that runs through. It's very, very controlled.
Sounds like good advice.
Sob! Sounds like good advice. I love that. There's just that tiny little note at the end, which is a little yodel that sounds like a crack or a break. That often comes from country music. It's called a cry break, where you yodel and allow your voice to crack a little bit at the end. You can also see how open her mouth is, but it's not just the front of her mouth that's important, it's the shape that she's creating between the back of her tongue and her soft palate, which is a squidgy bit at the back of your mouth. She's raising her soft palate, moving her tongue forward, and also bringing that larynx down in that sob sound.
But there's no one at my side, and time washes clean.
Nowhere. She's actually quite wide. People call it a letterbox shape mouth. You often hear that in musical theatre a lot, when people want the sound to cut through yet be big and warm, which means you get a little bit more of that pingy high frequency sound, as well as the darkness of that low larynx and sob sound there, so it doesn't get lost in too dark and dull. It really cuts through at the same time. Now it's interesting because people say, well, I bet that Linda's just doing that, she's not thinking about all these things, and absolutely I'm sure that is the case. Sometimes people are really intuitive and just move their vocal tract and listen to the resulting sound and the resulting feelings in their body. Some people do it through the logical manner of learning singing through each of these techniques. However, when you go and perform a song, you don't want to be thinking about all these individual techniques, you want it to flow really freely. So So part of singing training is, of course, breaking it down into these individual little moments, but then we zoom out and let them all flow and see where they go and see if you can kind of play with them and let them happen.
Love swoons unseen.
Beautiful.
That's what someone told me, but I don't know what it means, 'cause I've done everything I know to try and make you mine.
There's a definite switch between putting her vocal cords together and how tightly she's putting it together and breathiness, which I really like. She gets this really resonant sound and then lets it go, and you can hear when it's a breathy tone and she's allowing air through her vocal cords, because it does sound a little bit more like this. Whereas if she's like ah, it's really resonant and her vocal cords are together, whereas if she's like ah, it's got that breathy light sound to it, and she's mixing and matching those tones to match the emotions. Now this is the other way that you can come at it. Our voices react instantaneously to the emotions that we're feeling, so if we feel emotions, often we will express those emotions in a way that other people understand. How would you naturally express when you're speaking? What feels good to express when you're singing? And singing teacher is really interesting because I think it's become very science-based, which is great. We know a lot about singing and what's happening with our anatomy now, but then we just talk about the anatomy, and that's really hard to feel. So there has to be a kind of holistic side of how we integrate all that knowledge into our bodies. How do we integrate the emotion into a resulting sound? And that isn't a logical process, that's a feeling process.
And I think I'm gonna love you for a long, long time.
So beautiful though, so emotional.
Caught in my fears, thinking back
Oh, I love that.
tears. I can't say you hurt me when you never let me.
More cry breaks in there.
And I never drew one response from you. All the while you fell all over girls you never knew. 'Cause
There's so much sob and cry going on throughout, and that really makes it so emotional. Sometimes you're getting this really smooth line with the cry. Vibrato just happens at the end, and it just makes it feel oozy. Nothing has the same dynamics. It has a feeling of constant chewing gum movement. It's always this constant fluid motion, which is what happens with our emotions. Our emotions are not just like, I'm angry, I am sad. It's like, I'm sad and now I'm feeling a little bit of this and now I'm feeling a little bit of that. I think the most effective music is the music that echoes how we actually feel.
be near and I never drew one response from you. All the while you fell all over girls you never knew. 'Cause I've done everything I know to try and change your mind, and I think it's gonna hurt me for a long, long time.
There's something that she's doing that I think is really important. I talk to my students about this a lot, and it's a really strange thing. It's about eating a burger when you sing. Why am I talking about that? Often when people sing, they kind of morph between the vowels and the consonants, because when we're speaking, we don't really hang around on a vowel very much. For example, the word time, which she just sung there, We just go straight to the I'm. We're straight there. Whereas here, she is opening up the to I'm. And the I'm just happens really quickly at the end. I always say it's like chomping on a burger. You're like, time. And you want that to be really quick instead of like a slow. Maybe a little weird, but people seem to understand it. And you can hear that on how she's constructing most of her words. She's sticking on that vowel, opening it up quite a lot, and then her consonant comes in really quickly. There are a couple of times where she sung things like I think was one of them, where she closed onto that consonant. Of course, there can be exceptions to the rules for artistic expression. You hear sometimes singing on ums and ns do happen a little bit more with some singers, but it's definitely easier as a bass line to be opening up onto those vowels.
'Cause I done everything I
Ooh.
try and make you mine.
That was really interesting because I had a slight tightness to it. Sometimes we don't want to be perfect technique. Again, in teaching singing, I try and help people find this baseline of really great free technique. But if you want to wander away for artistic expression, that's great. That sound by itself, it sounds a little tight. If you kept on singing that over and over and over again in that way, and your song was like that the entire way, then it probably would be quite fatiguing for the voice. But for the tiniest bit of emotional expression, if you have got your bass line really working in a free place for you, and that's really important, sometimes it's the thing that adds a little bit of spice to that sound.
'Cause I done everything I know. Try and make
It's
you
quite heavy, quite thick vocal folds for that high.
I'm gonna love you.
It gives it that kind of shoutier quality as well, so that she's like, I'm so angry at this moment. It really conveys an emotion.
For a long, long time.
Smashing emotional expression. As per usual, if you want to hear a little bit more about Linda Ronstadt and her technique, I did a video on her song Desperado, and it's beautiful, and it goes a little bit more into cross-training and the different techniques that she draws from, as well as what's going on in her life right now. Alright, before you go, I have just released my very own album called Fable. It's a story of darkness into light. We're about halfway through it right now, and each song is being released here on YouTube and on Spotify. But if you want to listen to the whole thing, it's available on my website, bethroars.com, and in the little thing below, you'll see it. Alright, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.